for Joe Biden.
Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He sits on both the Judiciary and Foreign Relations committees.
And I would guess, Senator, that you too would agree with us that Joe Biden could have won.
Would have brought people together. I think Joe Biden could have spoken to the middle-class anxiety that I think drove a lot of the primaries in both parties, and I think he'd be a terrific president. So I share that regret. One of the ways I think Joe is going to make an enormous difference in our country is fighting cancer. As we've been talking about, cancer is a scourge that affects so many families. There's a lot of important work left to be done. In the last days of the lame duck, one of the things we did was pass some significant funding that was named after Beau Biden, after his remarkable son who passed too early.
So let me ask you a couple quick policy questions. First of all, Gorsuch, I'm disappointed in a lot of what I'm hearing. I know Gorsuch obviously follows Garland, and the Republicans acted in an abhorrent manner on Garland. But is that any reason for us to not give Gorsuch a fair look?
Well, Gorsuch got what Garland didn't, which is a fair hearing. He got full 4 days of hearings last week. I questioned him vigorously, some would say aggressively. And he is a charming man. He's got a good resume. He's got strong qualifications in terms of his education, his service on the court. But he would be, by some measures, the most conservative justice on the Supreme Court.
So should he deserve an up or down vote in the Senate?
He'll get an up or down vote. Senator Schumer, our minority leader, has said it's going to be a 60-vote margin, and I doubt he's going to get 60 votes. And the question then, Joe, becomes, what do we do? There's a lot of finger-pointing. There's a lot of Democrats justifiably still very mad about the treatment of Merrick Garland.
Yeah, obviously, yes, but do you not think we're going to get to 60 votes?
I don't think he's going to get 60 votes.
For cloture?
No.
All right, well, so then the Republicans are going to pass it using the so-called nuclear option.
Almost certainly. And I think this is tragic. And in talking to friends on both sides of the aisle, we've got a lot of senators concerned about where we're headed. There's Republicans still very mad at us over the 2013 change to the filibuster rule. We're mad at them about shutting down the government. They're mad at us about Gorsuch. And we are not headed in a good direction. I'm very concerned about where we're headed.
So, Steve Ratner, you have a chart that you say shows why getting tax reform passed might be a little bit more difficult.
So there's a lot of things to be said about tax reform, but one piece of it relates to the difference in the situation today from where President Bush was in 2001 when he passed his tax reform. So remember that Bush came in basically with surpluses left over from Clinton, $281 billion in his first year, looking ahead at surpluses of over $500 billion based on CBO scoring. And on that basis, it was a somewhat easier argument to say, okay, we can reduce taxes. What Trump is facing is a deficit of $559 billion in the current fiscal year, growing to $959 billion 5 years from now. And he's now talking about reducing taxes. There's obviously a very strong deficit hawk wing of the Republican Party. There are many Democrats who are fiscally responsible who are basically saying, let's not increase the deficit. So this is one of the many issues that tax reform is going to face, and why I don't believe people who say tax reform is going to be a lot easier than health care are correct. I think tax reform is going to be really, really hard.
Senator, what do you think?
I think tax reform is going to be very hard. And one of the things I'm finding is that we are more and more driven apart. There is less trust between the parties in Congress than there's ever been.
Even in the Senate?
Even in the Senate. We're different. You know, we are structured in a way. We have longer terms. We represent entire states. We should be more insulated from the partisanship, but we're going to have to work very hard to pull back together after the fights of the last couple of years. And this is one of the areas we should be able to do it. But as you point out, Steve, there's a lot of reasons why it's going to be extremely difficult. It hasn't happened since 1986 for a good reason.
So, Senator, for all of the Democrats' complaints over the last several years about the constant obstruction by Republicans, it seems that there is now a significant chunk of your caucus that wants to do the same thing. They want to obstruct at almost any cost, at the cost of getting anything done, even that may have bipartisan consensus, at the cost of comedy and collegiality in the Senate. So talk to me about the dangers of doing that, of behaving the same way that they accused Republicans of behaving.
Well, we are different in that Democrats want government to work. So as you heard Senator Schumer saying, as I would agree, If they'll put repeal off the table and sit down with us and talk about repairing, improving the Affordable Care Act, there's lots of Democrats who are eager to work on that. In fact, 15 of us sent a letter to Majority Leader Mitch McConnell back in January saying we're ready to work together to find ways to improve affordable health care, to improve access, to improve quality, to improve affordability. I introduced several bills in the last Congress to expand tax credits for small business owners. For example, we recognize Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, isn't perfect, wasn't written by gods, it was written by people. We took a long time to write it, much longer than 17 days, but it was far from perfect.
What about on taxes, though? Let's say that Trump talks to Schumer, talks to Pelosi, talks to you, talks to other Democrats, and comes up with a tax reform package that reduces corporate tax rates and that provides tax relief to small business owners. Isn't that something that could unite both parties?
Yes. If we have a move toward tax reform that could strengthen manufacturing, strengthen our exports, and provide tax relief to the middle class, not overwhelmingly to the wealthiest, there's a menu for us to start talking about. But tax reform generally is very difficult. If you want a border adjustment tax, everybody who's importing component parts is upset. Everybody who's exporting is happy. You get very different sectors engaged and either supportive or opposing, depending on what the pieces are of the plan. There's a lot of work first that we have to do to restore trust.
Steve, final thought?
Yeah, but with the plan that you outlined, Joe, is a very good plan. It just doesn't bear any resemblance to what either the Republicans or Donald Trump are advocating. So there would have to be huge movement.
Well, they're going to, you know what?
Huge movement to get this
just
done.
like with the health care plan, this tax reform plan, they need to throw it away, and they need to come up with a bipartisan plan that actually appealed to Trump's voters, right? That shouldn't be that hard.
Would be a start. Senator Chris Coons, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank
Good to
you
get back on
so
the
much,
show.
Senator.
Still ahead, before moving on to tax reform.